Welcome to Lincoln County Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. We have an amazing guest, as always, and we're super excited to kick it off and get going, get talking about some real estate today. So I'm going to turn it over to my guest today to introduce herself.
Hi, thank you for having me. I am Sarah Scronce. I'm with Fox and Riley Real Estate.
How long have you been a realtor?
Almost a decade.
Is it realtor or real estate agent? Which is it? As I say, I might switch it around.
For me, I don't care one way or another. Yeah. But
Okay.
I think some people do.
I was
care.
going to say, I think somebody, there's probably someone out there.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to own a Porsche, and I watched a video the other day, and it said, would you be a Porsche guy or a Porsche guy? And I was like, oh, that's a damn good question. I watched a dude's YouTube video on it. I was like, that's pretty interesting. And I don't even remember the takeaway from it. I was on the treadmill at the gym, but I just remember being like, that's a good question. That kind of reminded me of that. But so we've known each other a long time. You've been in real estate a long time doing this. Is this something that's always been a passion for you? How did you kind of find it? Like what brought it to you and made you go, you know what, I want to do that?
Boredom.
Really?
So I had my last child. He was a newborn. I had heart surgery, and I don't do good just sitting at home healing. And my husband came home one day and said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm getting my real estate license. And that's really how it came about. And then I dug into it and fell in love with it.
What is it about it that you fell in love with?
Helping people. Just hands down, that's always been the answer. I love helping people in general, and to help people with one of their biggest financial decisions is very rewarding for somebody like me who's a servant at heart.
That's awesome. And it's a huge financial decision. It's one of the biggest ones we make as an adult is buying that house. And I find that so many people are truly clueless. When we were looking for our first home, being a painter, I've been in thousands and thousands of homes. So there was stuff that for Casey, she's seeing it for the first time. I'm like, yeah, I've been there, done that. That's stupid. And I realized in that process, like with my job, I'm in homes a lot. That experience helped me with a lot of things. And I could see that like with you having a passion for it, there's going to be things that you're going to learn. What are things that you've kind of learned to not fall for? And by that, I mean like, so when I was a painter in 2008, 2009, when the market was going down, the builders came to us and they were adding little things to the houses. They either wanted us to do a color, or I noticed they started doing these weird returns on some of the doors, like little crackerjack things that people are like, ooh, that's neat. Really didn't do anything for the house. Like, what are things that you've learned like that you would teach a new client when they come to you? Like, here's some things that we need to look for. I realize that's very vague.
It is because each client is different. That's one of the things as a real estate advisor is to sit down and make sure that you ask them what their needs and their wants are. I love first-time home buyers because they always assume like I need, this big living room or 4 bedrooms or that extra space in the garage, when really with it being their first time out there, when they're looking, when I take them to places is, okay, so you're going to be sitting here in this living room. Where is this? Those kind of aspects. Is it really the 3-car garage that you need? Or is it that you need a 2-car garage, but then extra yard? Those kind of aspects of it. On top of also, don't just look at the lipstick on the pig.
Yes.
Look at the big structures and, what am I trying to say?
Well, you've got to help that person. They're going to see something. They're excited to buy it. They're going to look at it with tunnel vision. They're going to miss a lot of things that it's probably your job to, hey, did you think of this? I paint for a lot of realtors and I'll go in and deal with their customer. And the customers, I've always wanted my house, this is my favorite line, yellow. Excuse me? You want me to paint the house you're getting ready to list yellow? And I'll start texting the realtor while we're talking. And I'll be like, hey, FYI, they want me to paint their house yellow. And I'll explain to them that's a poor choice. Call their agent. Or I've had one that was like, I always wanted the closets a color. That's really dumb.
Or I've got to have a fence. That's a deal breaker.
Yes, that's
and then you find them a home that doesn't have a fence because of the other things that were more important. So yeah, in that aspect.
Educating them, helping them prioritize it. That was something we come across. Like Casey would see things and be like, "Ooh, that's really neat." And then when we go in the house, we'd be like, "See that actually that little hallway you thought was cute, like that cut off part of the dining room." She'd be like, "Ah, crap. Okay." Things that I, from painting houses, had just seen. So that's what makes your role and such an important role.
Right. Yeah. And, needing the basements or the finished basements and, is the basement done correctly, your sub pumps, your roof, the big things that your first time home buyers don't think of because they're excited and they want that pretty house. But what are your big things, especially the ones that want, older homes? Okay, well, these are the things that can come up in older homes. Let's take a look. But you're also in the midst of it, you don't want to steer them. As they're out there looking and browsing, I tell my clients, it doesn't matter what it is. If you think you're going to love it, send it to me. I am happy to take you to go see it because you're not going to know just by looking at pictures. You need to walk it and feel it. And from there, then you can start canceling out what you thought you wanted and what you truly need, and vice versa. And that's where you kind of grow to where when they do decide to put an offer in on a home, it's their forever home and they're going to love it and not have buyer's remorse.
Well, see, that's great advice because, like, when we were looking for our house, I looked at a bunch. We weren't spending a ton of money, but I kept finding we were buying the bigger of the homes in the neighborhood, and I didn't want to be the big guy on the block for resale values. The house we ended up buying had terrible photos. The guy had taken them with his cell phone. Why an experienced realtor did that, I have no clue. But luckily, my agent knew the house. Called me, said, "You need to go look at this one." I'm like, "No, I just looked at pictures. It looks like crap." I was like, "It's got a patio." She's like, "Trust me, let's go look at the house." I'm like, "Whatever, let's go look at it." Cause I was just done. I was like, I'm tired. We kept going into, it was Lincoln County, kept going to houses where Grandpa Bill had done the basement. It looked horrible. Extension cords in the ceiling, things that you didn't see in the photos. We walked into the house we have now and I loved it. Great light. It just had terrible pictures. So that was where I got lucky. My agent was experienced, which is something that you would bring to the table working with people that they probably, that is super important for them.
Absolutely. And that goes both ways. I mean, whether you are looking at a home online that has horrible pictures, you can look at a home online that has amazing pictures. And then you go there in person and you're like, oh my goodness, did they hire a magician? So I think at the end of the day, I try to educate my clients. Don't be biased on that. Look at what your wants are and see if that checks all those things off the boxes. And if it does, then let's go check it out. Nothing's going to hurt to go check it out, especially with having buyers. And I will go anywhere. I don't care if it's 4 hours away, here I come, because I want my clients, what I don't want my clients to do is ever have that fear of missing out. I rather take them, show them, and then them make that decision if it was right for them or not, because I'm not buying the home. There's some homes I take clients in and I'm like, oh my goodness, did they really, if this is really what they love, that's on them, or vice versa. Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they passed this up. This is amazing. But it's not on me and what I like. It's on them and what they like and where they can see their forever being at.
I have to watch that with paint. We painted
Yeah.
a house in Troy purple and black, and I was like, whew, they loved it. It's not my place, not what I'd want in my house. It looked good. We did a nice paint job, but it wasn't my place to talk them out of it. But I've watched contractors, or I watch people in business try to talk someone out of something they want. It's like, just do it. Like, you can guide them, you can give advice. Like I told a lady, if you're selling your house, don't paint the inside of your closets. That's an absolute waste of money and your realtor's not going to be happy. And I messaged a realtor and she called me back and said, yeah, we're not doing the closets. That was a misunderstanding or miscommunication they had had.
Well, and I think a lot of that miscommunication, that misunderstanding too, is education. You know, um, in my opinion, when you're an agent, a real estate advisor, agent along those lines, is if you stick with educating your client, then you don't get stuck in that line of being biased or your opinion. Your, your opinion going into it on, now you're throwing your opinion in there on what you think they need, because it's truly your client's decision and everybody's different. And so that's staying strong with the education of it. Like, okay, this house, maybe it needs some work, but now let's look at the big things, your hot water heater, your roof, and educating them on what that will cost, or what's the next steps when you're talking to the seller and things along that nature, and see if that works with them financially.
Do you find that most people are receptive to that, or is it, like a 50-50 split, or did you ever have those ones that, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I know what I'm doing." Like I've always found in business that sometimes that's a fine line to walk when educating someone because not everybody wants it.
I think at the end of the day that most of the time, whether they want it or they don't, they understand what kind of agent you are, right? So when you go out, you're going to hire somebody that you know who they are. I try to educate my clients, and luckily I haven't had it happen so far, knock on wood, but I tell them straight as day, like, here's your buyer's agency agreement or your listing agency agreement. If for some reason we down the road don't mesh, please let's be transparent and let me know. I want this transaction to be joyful. And a real estate transaction can be very non-joyful. It can get really confusing. So what I want with my clients is that if what's standing in the way of that joy is because of our relationship and we're not communicating correctly, I want them to be able to communicate that with me that, okay, if it's not me, I will tear that up and we will find you somebody that works well for you. And every client has been very appreciative of that. Like I said, luckily, I've never had anybody look at me and be like, Sarah, this isn't working out, you know? So that's been a blessing. But I've never had anybody say, you're overly educating me. I have had people say, yep, I understand. But with that being said, it's more of, oh my goodness, I didn't look at it that way. Thank you so much. I didn't get it. I'd rather give too much information than not enough and just assume that they know. And then down the road, regret not knowing.
See, I walk that line with the martial art, the painting too, but color's color. Once in a while, I'll, hey, we should go 2 shades darker. But with the martial arts school, I always find there's a million different ways to do a kick. So we go through like unofficial themes, or like right now we're doing point sparring. So I'm showing all the kids how when we point spar, we stand this way, we would execute a kick this way, and why we do it. Now I go into more detail with my adult classes on it because they appreciate it a little more. A lot of times I'm going into a little bit of detail with the youth class. It's just so the parents kind of understand that there's 4 different ways to do a certain technique. It's not that I'm doing it wrong or their child's doing it wrong. No, you're doing it like we would kick a board for board breaking purposes. This one here needs less knee bend for point sparring. And I try to touch on it lightly at the kids and youth classes, but for the adults, I'll take them kind of down the rabbit hole of, okay, hey, I used to do it this way. Here's what I did. And I find every once in a while you get that one in the back that's kind of glazed over. But for the most part, people do appreciate it as long as you do it in a correct way of not being preachy. I don't come from a point of, well, I know all the kicks better than everyone else. I'll just explain it from how I learned it. And I like to understand that. When I was a student, I remember going to my instructor saying, hey, why do we do this block? Go do 1,000 of them, come back. Went and did 1,000 of them. He's like, do you understand now? I was like, yes, sir. Walked off. My friend's like, really? You understand it? I don't. I was like, I don't either, but I know if I say that, I'm going to do another 1,000. I'm not stupid. Wasn't born last night. Took me years before I learned what that technique was actually for and why. Took me for 13 years before I went to a seminar where it was broken down for us. It was a simple ask. My students ask me, I don't tell them go and punch the heavy bag 1,000 times, get back to me. That's just stupid. But I think the right customers find the right people. Like you saying, you want to educate, you use the word real estate advisor. The people that want that are going to find you. They're going to look into you. They're going to see your social media presence. They're going to see how active you are in the community and different things. And they're going to come to you. And I feel that way with my students. Like the people that want my style are going to come to me. I don't need to go out there and say I'm the best because I'm not. But what we offer is great, and I'm going to break it down.
And with real estate, it's, believe it or not, it's extremely black and white because of the laws that are in place. And so there's a lot more people out there that, like, when you write up a contract and you tell them that you need them to sign it, that don't actually read the contract. So as a real estate advisor, you need to make sure that they understand what those next steps are and things along those lines. And that goes all the way down to the inspection, to the title company. And that's where my goal is even if I give them too much information, even if they did know, now I know that they know. And that's what's going to give you the top star, service through that whole transaction.
Well, and that's what's going to take you the long road.
Yeah, it's definitely not over explaining, or it's a little bit different. I'm not preaching necessarily. I mean, I just had a client today reach out and said, now explain to me how the counteroffer works. And in my mind, I gave them the straight answer that I would give everybody else. And then it clicked in my head that they weren't quite understanding. So I needed to explain it from a different angle. So I think picking those up. And then at the end of that conversation, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't quite understand that. Thank you so much. Because there's more than one person in this transaction. And they were getting asked questions. So I think at the end of the day, if you're able to see that and be able to educate all of those processes correctly, yeah, it works out really, really well.
Well, and some of us just like to know things. Like for tattoos, for example, was getting one done where my back was turned to what they were doing. And I told the guy, I said, because I don't get a lot. I've got a couple from him, but not a lot. And I said, hey, I'm not questioning what you're doing. My martial arts instructor when I was a kid would always ask me questions. If I helped him on his car, helped him on his house, he just liked to learn, and I like to learn. So I'll ask, oh, okay, cool. You switched over to another black or another gray or whatever. What did you dilute that one? Yeah, this one's 50% water. Oh, cool. Which needle is that? Oh, that's really neat. And I've told him I'm not like micromanaging or quizzing or board talk. I'm just interested in what it is. I like when I get tattooed, I like to watch. I sit there and we'll watch the needle. I'm very interested. Oh, they outlined, okay, they filled in like this today. Okay, this guy does this or this person does that. I find it interesting. And I like myself, when using someone, I would want to know all the steps. What's the step to this? What's the step to that? Whereas my wife, for example, would just, oh, it's done. Okay, cool. Like that's not how her brain, that's how mine works. So someone like what you're saying, that's kind of what I was getting there with, those people find each other.
I agree, because that's how my brain works.
Yeah.
When I say I got into the real estate world with boredom, it's not just straight boredom. It's the education just doesn't stop. I just got, several certifications, and now I'm already thinking, what else can I get into to get to the next thing? That's just because that's the way my brain works. So I do automatically assume that going into every transaction, that's what people deserve, because that's what I would expect. And you can pick up quickly, if people, certain clients, should I say, if certain clients appreciate it, or if certain clients are like, I've done this a million times. Let's just
buy me the house.
Buy me the house and let's move on. I mean, I think that also goes in hands from your first-time home buyers to your investors. So same thing with residential real estate and commercial. I do both. So those clients are completely different aspects of the world.
Oh, it's two totally different things.
Two totally different.
Now, you say you like to learn stuff. I think one of the coolest things with modern day, I preach to my students all the time, is YouTube and all these alternative education sources. I have my new Instagram set up, and it's all business, motivation, multimedia, social media. It's all infotainment based channels almost solely. Or it'll be somebody that went viral and I'll study their content. I'll watch it. I'm like, what did they do? That's really interesting. Wow, this post has 2,000 likes, but the last one had 3 million. How the hell does that happen? What do you find? Like, what do you watch for stuff like that? What do you find yourself? Do you watch a lot of real estate stuff on social media or TV?
I do actually. My 2024 goal is to start getting into a little bit more with my social media to educate more clients that are out there. A little bit more than how do you winterize your home? Those little things that people don't think of, and start educating them, and, with inspectors, with lenders, the weird stuff that pops up. So, but I get that information because I do the same thing as like you said. I study, and then I'll start following people. And then I'm like, okay, so this one got this, and then this one, got that many likes, or, oh, he said this, but she said that, because it's almost a matter of opinion at that point on what every real estate agent out there to get leads. It's all opinionated. For me, I think it is connection. But some people think that cold calling people and not building that connection is going to get them to their next step. And everybody can run their business how they choose to do so. But I read a lot of books, and I'm up till 3 a.m. because my brain doesn't stop, and I'm stalking things and the next thing. And being a good person, it goes more than just into real estate. And next thing you know, I'm going down the tunnel of being a good person and being authentic, and things just those things in general.
Well, and that's important too, because with anything you're doing on social media or anything you're doing behind a camera or in front of public people, it's easy to tell when someone's bullshitting. When they're putting on that fake face, I've got different people that I deal with, and I'm always, I had a interaction recently with someone, and I was like, wow, that was real. Because they're always very business. It's always, always, always business, business, business. And this, they let the real slip out. And I was like, you should do that more. When I was young in the martial arts school, I had someone come to me and they're like, you're too real. You're not in a bad way, but I was just talking to clients and talking to the people at school the way I do. It's me. I've always done that. And I was like, if it doesn't work, cool. Then I'll close the business. I'll do something else, but I'm not going to stand here and be fake. And I know people that do that when they clock in at their business, they're a different person and that's not who they really are. And I feel short term, that's okay. It's going to work for some people, but at the end of the day, I can't be that person. And letting that come across when you are doing media or you are doing it on your social is important. And for years, I would steer away from posting things because my grammar and spelling is so bad. And so I would do it. Finally, I started doing it. And then when people are like, that's not the right form of there, I'd be like, well, it's the right form of fuck you. Like, I don't care. I got past it. And then I found out that very small-minded people were the ones worried about it. The larger-minded people are like, man, it was a cool message. Even though I misspelled half the words in it.
Well, I think I find that also, running any business, even when you're trying to build your real estate business, to be as authentic as you can and to not prevent that. Because I'm not going to lie, when I first got my real estate license, here I am looking at all of these powerhouse realtors. Like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I used to take my nose ring out and my lip ring out at every listing appointment that I went to because I was nervous I was going to offend somebody. Now you'll be lucky. I'll sit here and suck on my lip ring right in front of you while you're signing, the agreement. And I've come to learn through the years that you've got to authentically be you because people can see through that. And that's why I tell people, like, I'm dramatic, I'm not drama, but I'm good-hearted and I love hard, and that flows not just through my family, through my personal life, through my friendships, it also flows into my business as well. And that's what I'm trying to create with my business, is to be that one particular agent. And they say every time in your business, like, what is your niche? It took me forever. I'm watching everybody else's niche. Like, he's doing amazing doing this. You're doing amazing doing that. I need to try this. None of that was my niche. My niche is being a good human. And to start branding that and being that and authentically staying there. Just like your niche, when I look at you, Matt, and we've known each other a really long time, like, you're just going to get pure honesty, and it's pure and it's authentic, and it's always that. It doesn't matter if it's your painting business or, that's what you're going to get.
Whatever I say is going to be what come right off my brain. I'm not going to sit there and think of it. Yeah.
No, and it's authentic and it's genuine. It's not judgy, and just things of that nature. It's very heartwarming, and that's kind of where I like to go with it as well. What you see is what you get. I love being out there. I'm a cup filler. I love to volunteer. As much as I'm like, okay, I'm going to volunteer for this, but this doesn't actually bring anything to my business. It took a lot for me to realize that that's okay, that if I go and I volunteer for something, I'm not necessarily going out there to look for a lead. I'm going out there because that's a cup filler for me, because that fills my soul on me continuing to be the good person I know I am. Now, if a lead comes with it, great. And so there's just some things there that,
I learned that too, that just being out there and doing it, I wouldn't say I'm a big person that believes, like, I wouldn't say I've studied Buddhism or karma or any of that stuff, but energy out, energy in. The more energy you're putting out there, whether you're volunteering, whether you're helping with this, whether, you're going, went up the other day and drove toys up for Anchored Hope. I have a trailer. It's easy to get to. I drove it up there. Not worried about getting a lead off that. If you just do that stuff, it's good for you. And when I hit that pivotal point in business that I could see that, it changed it. And when I realized that being me is okay. I'm very passionate when I coach. I'm not a jerk, but I'm passionate. When we got done in Worlds last year, I was tearing up at the table because all the kids were talking and hanging out, and the parents, everybody we're at this restaurant. Everybody was enjoying it. And Casey's like, what is your problem? I was a mess all week. But I told her, I was like, we won't be here again next year. She goes, no, the term will be somewhere else. I'm like, no, Riley's got college. Kendall will be moving up and stuff she's doing in school. Emily's getting older. Ben and Jocelyn are getting older. Like everybody's kind of moving to something new. And sure enough, this last year in Canada, not everybody was there. Madeline had taken on some new things at school. She wasn't with us. And so it was a completely different dynamic. And I seen that a year ago and it made me emotional. And I just wear it on my sleeve. And I used to try to be like, okay, I got to change this. I got to not say this. I got to be a little more PC. And it would stress me out. And it took becoming successful financially with one business to kind of bring that confidence that I can just be me. And I get a kick out of it sometimes, but you either like me or you don't. And that's that. And you're disliking the honest to goodness person that you met. If we've had an interaction, you don't like me, that's fine. I mean, I'm just very brutal with it. And you are too. You're very sincere. There's never a time that I've been around, I'd be like, oh yeah, she's being fake today. We all know those people when we deal with them. We know those people that every word out of their mouth is just another pitch or a fake laugh or fake hello. People see that. And I find that with kids, with all the kids I deal with and going to the high schools and stuff like I do, boy, they know it.
Oh, big time. And being a mom of 4 boys, it's really tough. I tell my husband this all the time. Like, I'm trying to raise men here. And so raising them to be men in my mind, right? Because I think I'm doing it right. They might need therapy down the road, but I think I'm doing it right. To me, I want to show them because I'm the only female in the house. So the way that they treat me, the way that they treat their father, the way that they are a community member, because I will take them with me to go volunteer. Now, of course, at 10 years old, you're going to pout a little bit. But I've noticed, because my oldest is 19 and my youngest is 7, that pouting goes away. And now I have a really good young man that will get an umbrella out of his trunk to hold it over somebody who is putting their groceries away in the rain. And that, to be their authentic self and to be able to give back, because I'm a true believer, the more you put out there, you will get it back in return. And not expecting that. And I think that even goes in with business. It may take that person a tad bit longer to build what they're trying to build for their family and their legacy, but their legacy is going to last longer building that.
And that's something I had to learn too. Like there were times that I would, hey, we'll take care of that. There's paint jobs. We've donated paint jobs to everything I can possibly think of, anything I can find. That Casey was like, are you kidding me? You have no money. Like, what are you doing? And in the early days, I think some people thought, oh, they just want to be money bags, act like they're rich. It was like, no, I felt fulfilled by that. I felt good when I helped those out, even if I couldn't afford it, even if I didn't take a paycheck that week, I made sure we did good things. But I realized those eyes are on us. You're doing it for your kids. I'm doing it for my kids. I want them to be a pillar of their community. I want them to be someone that helps out. And the only way they learn that, you can stand there and say it all day long. There's a lot of people that say it, but don't do it. You just do. My children, we pick up trash around town. We do different things and they're always with me because they're seeing that example. Exactly. Like you said, maybe one day they're going to need therapy or they're going to go, oh my gosh, my parents work so much and they always made us do this. But when I look at other people that are raising successful kids, that are, say they're older than us and they give me a fist bump. They say, man, you're doing it right. And I see their kids and their family doing good. I go, okay, I'm doing it right. Now I can sleep better at night. Because if we don't do that, we're screwed. Like that's what we've got to do to help the world. It starts with you at home and what example you set.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, it really does. And then jumping back into it full time in the real estate world full time, it's neat to watch the boys. You know, I tell them all the time, I love my cutting boards, and that's just because they need to see those accomplishments and those pats on the back and what you can do, as a human. There's so much you can do.
Well, and I'm a firm believer too that, and this is something I never even noticed it. And I had a friend of mine had an argument with someone we worked with, and he pointed out, he was like, what have you won? The guy's like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you call Matt a loser all the time, make comments about him, but what if you won? He goes, I was over at his house and he's got a room full of trophies. There's second, third places. I never was like a world greatest martial artist, but I won. And I've noticed that as Ben and Jocelyn develop, they see me win. Not only do I coach them, but I get up and win with them. My students take it genuinely when I do stuff because I'm winning. I'm doing it with them. But my kids learn how to win. Like when they attack a task, whether we're running a 5K or whatever, they're not like, well, I'm going to finish. They're arguing over who's getting first and second because they know how to win. Well, so the last event we did, the 5K for the dogs, the Troy one, Taylor and him hosted. Oh my gosh, the crap talking at home because Ben slipped when they ran and Jocelyn beat him.
Oh, Austin? Because my Austin got
Yeah.
third place.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
I had to hear about that for 2 weeks.
Oh my
But it
gosh.
also teaches them also because my Austin, he was like the third guy that came through the whole 5K. But then when they did the 100 meter, because he's better at long distance running, not short distance. But that teaches them so much, the disappointment, like feel all the feelings, but also be proud of yourself because not everybody in the community was there.
No, and that
it was a great turnout.
Yes,
but,
for sure. And that we heard about that too. I got all the way home. It was like, well, if we wouldn't have had to do 5K first. Why didn't they schedule the 100 meter first when our legs were fresh? Like that, oh my gosh, all night long. I was like, well, next year we'll take you to the meeting and you guys can speak up about the schedule.
We'll make sure we'll put that in the notes for sure for next year.
I was dying, but that teaching them to win, teaching them to lose. When I spent a good time last year working with a hypnotist in England, and great guy. It started out hypnotizing me to help me focus when I compete. I'm so ADHD. I'm there with all my students. It was very hard for me to dial in and compete when it was my time because I literally, you'll see pictures, I'm coaching in a uniform. That's because I'm waiting for my name to get called in the ring next to me to go compete at a world level also. Like I'm competing for a world championship and I'm also coaching kids to one too. And so are my friends. Like these tournaments are absolute madness and we just eat it up with a spoon. We sit down and talk later about, we're like, what's wrong with us? But I worked with him, but we got to talk about the English language a lot for me to help coach better. When working with them when they lose or when they win, what can we do, this and that? And that's what's always made me strong with them. But by us teaching our kids that it's okay. You don't have to win everything. There's been times we've went that Ben and Jocelyn didn't place. Ben had a little rough go with that 5K because we had kind of slacked on our eating habits at home. Ben was putting on some weight. So after that 5K, I kind of watched his performance, how he struggled with the run because me and him stayed back. And we changed our eating habits at home. And I was showing Casey last night. He hasn't gotten any taller, but he was starting to get chubby. And he went to pull his shirt off to do something. He's got his abs back. I've dropped weight. He's dropped weight. He's healthier. And that's at the same age. Like I got really heavy at that age or started gaining weight at that age. So it was really bothering me that he was doing it. So I'm like, no. I'm teaching better eating habits than my parents did. But I wasn't. We had slacked. So we had that talk. We were coming down the hill on the way back on the 5K and we were having a discussion about maybe we need to exercise a little more and basically Casey and I screwed up. We didn't book summer camp and he just got to lay around a lot that summer. And we're like, maybe we need to do some more exercise and you put a little more effort in class and but teaching them that lesson.
Teaching them all of the lessons. I think even with winning and losing, like the 5K that you said, also teaching them the winning and losing, but also giving back to the community because those kinds of things give back to the community. But I see where you're coming from with, because Mike Holland, he's very self-conscious about his weight as well. And he does all of the sports. He really thinks that he's an only child, which is such a blessing for him. But with that being said, he'll come to me and be like, well, Mom, I want to be able to cut some weight for wrestling or, gain some muscle for football or these things. And I try to give him that platform, but I don't just hand it to him. Let's see what you can do. So this past 2 weeks, I told him, okay, you've been really trying hard for the last 2 months. Let me take you into somebody that's more educated than I am, educate you with it. And that's when we started vitamins and, certain things to make sure that he was fueling his body correctly. We've been food prepping. And let me tell you that Mom on a Sunday does not want to cook 47 pounds of protein for my, almost 15-year-old. However, I'm doing it because his passion's there and he is doing it as well with that. Now, if he starts to fall off, that's not my problem. I've given you the tools. You use the tools to keep moving forward. So to teach them that as well, because I think a lot of it is that these kids, again, this is opinion, but they think that things should be handed to them. But
Yes,
you've got to earn it. If you want some protein, you need to earn it. And if you want to earn it, so we'll go back in 2 weeks. Maybe we just got you, 2 things off of this list. Now let's see from point A to point B how much you've improved. And if you improve, maybe I'll get you one more thing off this list, whether it's weights or, a kickboxing bag or whatever. Then it's those things that you stay with. So
Well, and I've come across that too. Like my stepson wanted to train and do all this stuff and had that same kind of like an only child mentality. And he was doing all of it. And he was downstairs watching TV. I'm outside mowing and trimming the grass. I'm like, you need to come out and mow the grass. I'll make sure you get jujitsu. And no, I'm not mowing the grass. It's your house. I said, yeah, but it's my vehicle, my wife, and my money that has you in jujitsu. I need help. And so we gave him the ultimatum. You have to do something around here. And he quit. I ain't doing nothing. So then you don't go. You think that just because you do something, we're supposed to just shell it out. I was like, I want a steak dinner on Friday night. I work my butt off. I make sure I get some steaks and marinate them. I don't just lay in my room and Snapchat, come upstairs and expect it to be there. I went out and worked for it that day. And I think so many parents fight that of, I want my kids to have these things that I didn't have, and that's that one quote, but they don't teach them the things they weren't taught.
I'm guilty to a sense.
We all are.
I think we all are, but I do agree because, at the same time, again, with being the only girl in the house, I'm not cleaning the bathrooms. Mm-mm. It's either you boys are doing it or I'm hiring somebody. That's not fair for me, right? But it is cute, and it's hard in today's society. It really is, especially with the way that we grew up, because it is that mentality. You want to give them the things that you weren't able to have. But you're right. Are you teaching them the things that you weren't taught?
Well, and we're seeing a lot of the repercussions in society now for that
Correct.
generation. The gap right behind us of everybody got a trophy, everybody thinks they deserve everything, and it's not everybody. I've got a lot of great kids at the school, and I meet a lot of great kids at the high schools when I go in and talk. But there's a lot of people just expect it. I have painters that come to work for me, and they don't understand that. Like Jake's a taper, I'm a painter. We went through apprentices and we did this stuff, and we had to deal with bosses that were paying about it. And we had to do the shitty jobs for years. They think because they picked up a paintbrush, they should make $50,000 plus a year. They should get a company vehicle, should get all this stuff. And it's like, you're just learning. You haven't paid the dues. People don't think they have to anymore. And I don't want to say it's a social media problem, because I'll have parents sign up the school. Literally, they'll sign up. So when's your next belt testing? Well, how does that apply to you? Your kid's been here a week. Well, we just want to make sure we're here when they get their yellow belt. They have to earn that belt. I ain't giving it to them. I was like, I own another business. I don't need that $50. Like they got to earn the belt. Like there may be instances where I'm like, okay, this kid's really close, but they're working hard. I'm going to let them test. But it's amazing at the people that are like, well, we want one of those competition team hoodies. Well, you have to join the team, travel around, and be a part of the team to earn the privilege to buy one. Well, but my kid just really likes one. Can't I just buy one? No. And it's amazing. And thank God I got someone that works the desk, because I would probably run off so many clients this way, because it disgusts me, because then I'm teaching that kid in class that, yes, just because they did a kick, they're a good kid, they're working hard, but they're not ready to promote yet, like trying to teach those lessons. But I feel like our generation as parents is doing that. We are doing that. As much as I hate to say it, us 40-year-olds are doing that. Or are you 40 yet?
I am.
Okay. I was like, I couldn't remember. I always forget, because there's so many people that went to school that are like, because Casey's 2 years older than me, but we graduated with her sister.
Okay.
And so I always like forget ages. I'm like, wait, were they one? Because when I was at North High, I went to Dominic for a little bit. So when I came back, I actually had 2 classes with underclassmen. So I think I was in my junior year, I was in like a half freshman, half sophomore science class. So I get confused sometimes with like the age thing, but we're in our 40s. Oh, I hate saying that. But our generation, I really feel is doing that. I talk to so many of us that really are teaching those lessons.
Right. You have to. I mean, oh man. Yeah. And I keep going back to having all boys, because I don't know what it's like to have girls, but
it's hell. Don't recommend it. I wanted one so bad, and then I got Jocelyn, and every time Casey will just look at me and she's like, You wanted it. I'm like, it's you. It's a little you. What do you mean? I guys, like, I have two of you. And she's like, whatever. They're both like you. And then people will be like, oh my gosh, Jocelyn is so you. And I'll get kicked under a table by Casey.
I love that.
No, boys are definitely easier. If Jocelyn was first, she would have been an only child because there's no way I would have ever thought about having another kid. Boys are definitely easier than
Boys
girls.
are, I can't agree to that. The boys are easier, but raising them in today's society, I feel it's harder
Yeah.
just because of the mentality of, I struggle because I'll be the mom. Believe it or not, I got to let the coaches know that if you're going to let my kid be disrespectful out there on the field, I hate to break it to you, I will be the mom that comes out there and pulls them off.
Yep.
And there's been times that some of these coaches didn't take me serious and I will pull my kids. But there's also been times if they've gotten suspended or something along those lines that they will still show up at the game, but they are not playing. They'll be in uniform and they will sit there and they will cheer on their team because that is what you do.
That's what you do.
But you're not playing. And, I've had my boys look at me and be like, yeah, right, Mom. And then it happens. And their coaches get on. I remember Colin, because he's a class clown, he got suspended for his mouth last year. And so he had baseball and football. I talked to both coaches, and the coaches actually said to me, well, he doesn't need to come. Oh, no, but he does. And he needs to do extra at practices. And I'll be sure to actually show up and make sure it happens. And it did. And I tell you what, he did not do, to this day, the class clown stuff that he did then. And it teaches them, and it sucks. It sucks, especially coming from a household on, my version of the household I came from, right? And trying to break the generational curses and things along those lines. It's hard sometimes because you try to please your children because you don't want that, relationship or them to be mad at you. But at the same time, and I've done all of this, by the way, just by verbal abuse. I don't spank the kids. I don't spank the boys. And they're really, especially with them being boys, because their attention span's so small, when you ground them, it doesn't, and they adapt. Boys could you could take everything away from them and they'll still live and adapt, and they'll play with dirt and the sand, and that's a toy to them. So you got to be creative with the kind of things, especially with their different personalities.
Oh, for sure. One of the things I look at too as a parent that was so different for our generation is, so when we were kids, if there was someone in the neighborhood or someone that we were friends with that had an undesirable household, maybe that's not where our parents wanted to go. Maybe that was the person's house we'd go to when we wanted to do something we weren't supposed to do. We all had that person. Maybe some of us were that person. Nowadays, they're bombarded with it everywhere. Social media is insane. And I think back to when we were kids and I'm like, how would we have survived that? I know of some of the shit I dealt with as a kid, as a teen. I'd get my car and go cruise around, go do whatever. To be honest, one of my memories is Jake's dad dropping him off at the roller rink because his dad's vet was brown, my dad's vet was red, and we were passing each other. And I remember the two of us getting out to go in to roller skate because everybody was like, two vets. We did that type, so there was no social media. When we were there, I remember having an argument with a girl and getting my feelings hurt, and then I went home and did whatever the hell I did. Like, I remember being there, I remember being mad, I remember being over to the side of O'Fallon Skate Land, sitting there, and I think she couple skated to that terrible song that everybody couple skated to with another boy, and I was upset. But we went home. These kids don't go home. It's on their social media. It's on Snapchat. It's sent to them. They're made fun of everywhere, but they're bombarded with bad things. Like, Ben and Jocelyn will watch YouTube and I'll hear a term come out or something come out, and it's like, whoa, because they don't have tablets so they can watch it on the TV, but we're not always in the room. I'm like, whoa, where the hell did that come from? And then I'll be sitting there with them while they're watching something and I'll hear something. I'm like, that's it. You're not watching that channel no more. That is something that I find that a lot of them just don't. We didn't have that. I mean, what do you think about that? Like, when we were kids, we weren't bombarded with it like that.
I can say I don't monitor my boys' social media, their TV time, their Xbox time, or even the content as often as I know that others do.
Yeah.
And this is the reason being, truth be told, now I have access to all of their phones. And if I ever want to go through it, I'll go through it. Truth be told, I just get on there and send a Snapchat, to a friend just to ruffle their feathers. Like, here's your mom, hi, or whatever.
That's awesome.
But what I try to teach them, because there's no hiding it. It doesn't matter if it's in my home or if it's at school, something's going to be there and they're going to figure it out. So I've adapted with the way society is. And now these are my rules are you're not going to be disrespectful. You are not going to be disrespectful to another adult or to another, in this case, for them being all boys, you're not going to disrespect another female, things of that nature, because you're going to get the content, but teaching them what's appropriate and not appropriate. You're going to hear things. And truth be told, I'm a sailor at heart. I speak in cursive 150% of the time, even in my own home. So the boys hear things, but raising them on what's right and what's wrong. So even my 19-year-old, almost 20-year-old, oh my gosh, he will say curse words in front of me. I've had friends look at me and say, that doesn't upset you? No, because he's not cussing at me. He's cussing to me. And there's certain words that are not allowed.
Yeah.
However, and that's not even allowed out of my own mouth, more or less. So I think just not, of course, if there's something that I hear, like you said, and you turn it off, you're done.
Yeah. No, that's what we do too. Yeah.
With that being said, when I tell them to turn it off and be done, that goes back to the rule that your mom's in the house. You're going to respect me in my space. That's what I try to teach my boys. Everybody has their own personal space, and you got to respect their space. You got to respect their boundaries, no matter what it is, whether you agree to it or not. You need to respect that because everybody has their own mind, brain, and things of that nature. And that comes along with the craziness of social media and to feel those feelings. That's one thing that I remember as a kid, that it was hard to feel the feelings because you were told how to feel.
Yeah.
Essentially, you were told to forget that feeling and move on and smile and whatever. I
tried to bottle it up.
Bottle it up. Yes, exactly. So I try to teach my boys, feel it out. If this girl said no to you, and yeah, it sucks. It's supposed to suck though, because you care and it's okay to care and things of that nature. So,
well, and talking them through it like that is good. I think a lot of parents will just sweep it under a rug or act like it doesn't exist. Being aware that it's out there, they'll watch stuff. I'll tell them I want them to turn it. Why? And I'll sit down and explain to them, this is inappropriate. I don't like what they're doing on there. Or was a lot of these influencers, it's that's a fake reality, guys. That's not real. That's just astronomical. Or the drama. So many of them, their channels are based off drama and just BS. That teaching the kids lesson, let them see it. My dad, when I was a kid, so when I got in my late teens, early 20s, I'd go into the city with people, into St. Louis. And I had friends, I'm like, have you ever been to the city before? Because that's not how you act. That's how you get hurt. Knock it off. Stupid stuff. Had some guys in from out of state. They're martial artists. They wanted to go on Washington Avenue. They're like, guys, park a couple blocks off. I was like, we don't park a couple blocks off Washington Avenue at 11 o'clock at night. They're like, we're all black belts. I'm like, I'm sorry. Any of you bulletproof? Because this isn't a great neighborhood. But my dad had taken me to the city when I was younger. I remember my mom getting really upset. My dad took me to the city. I went home, told my mom I saw hookers. And my mom was like, excuse me? Mike, you were at Bible school last week. What do you mean you saw hookers? What do you mean by a hooker? And we explained, my dad took me down off Cherokee somewhere. And he was like, see them? They're selling their body because they made bad choices, and would teach me things where I'm comfortable in those neighborhoods. I can go into those places. I go places like that to bid, or I'll take my family places, and I can recognize when it's not a safe place. But I was taught those lessons at a young age. And I try to do that with my kids, teach them the lessons, not just, I find when some people shelter things, they're setting that child up when they meet reality.
I think it's when they meet reality, and for them to be honest with you. I've had Jake tell me several times, the boys are so honest with you. They know that they can ask me anything. And we have what we call timeouts, right? So if they think they're going to get in trouble, Mom, this is a timeout, but I really need to talk to you. Fine. You won't get in trouble. You will get one hell of a lecture. But that gives them that opportunity to know that they can come to me for anything. I do believe that certain conversations and levels of conversations is age appropriate.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
However, at the end of the day, I don't need my child, whether he's 7 or whether he's 19, question something that they heard from another child because they weren't structured how I structure my children and then be stuck in a situation that they're uncomfortable in. I want my children to be prepared for everything. And whether that's business, whether that's education, whether that's friendship, all of the things, I want them to be as prepared as possible. I mean, I remember right in the middle of Walmart going down the soup aisle that when my 10-year-old turned to me and asked me what a tampoon was. And I was sitting next to him, or a mom was also down that soup aisle, and she just started laughing. And it threw me for a loop because I knew what he meant. He didn't know what he meant, and he actually heard it from another student.
Yeah.
But what they saw was a bottle of water, sticking a tampon in there, and, the science experiment,
Yep.
And that's when we did end up having a conversation to understand a little bit more of what those things mean, the appropriate conversation for a 10-year-old.
Yes, yeah, different
But
conversation, yeah.
still along those lines, because I want my kids to be able to come to me and say, "Mom, what's a tampon?"
Mhm.
And not, and to know that I've answered them incorrectly, and to know that the information I gave them out in the world is going to be respected. Like, they're still going to be respectful.
Yes. Well, and that's something that I find even with my own kids and then my students at the school. Like, they'll come to me with things, my teens, as they all, hit that 16-year-old mark. Like, I found myself having some really interesting conversations with kids that were not mine because their parents had not and would lie to them about things. And so they would come to me and ask questions about stuff. And I remember just going home to Casey going, why am I the one that is being like, I don't have my shit together enough for this. And it just became more and more and more. And but that's kind of what I love, though. Like, our age group's doing things differently with our kids, and I see a positive change. One thing I noticed too, I've talked to a lot of people that grew up in O'Fallon like we did. Well, part of it, because you moved out there at what age?
14,
Were
14, 15,
before
North
that?
County.
North County. Okay. Well, same difference, because so many people, I feel like back then O'Fallon was where everyone from North County went. Now it's Troy. Like, we had some martial art tournaments down in the city, and I was like, I'm probably not gonna bring anybody. And they're like, why not? I was like, because all my people lived out this way and they don't come back. They're North County transfers. Because I've had people tell me, man, Troy really feels a lot like North County. I'm like, that's because North County moved to Troy. But I've talked to a few people that say, like, we talk about how O'Fallon now, or Troy now, is kind of a lot like O'Fallon was back then. The families know each other. The kids all know each other. I love going to the store, and my kids know, like, with me at the martial arts school, I know a lot of kids, but my kids will know other kids from around town. We know other parents from around town. I don't feel like that's going on in the bigger towns anymore. I feel like that's something unique to Troy. And do you kind of find out with your family and with business and everything that it's very unique? I have.
I do. I have too. And actually, that's one of the reasons why we moved out here so long ago. So no, I'm not born and bred in Lincoln County, but I've been out here long enough. My children are born and bred out here in Lincoln County. And you're right. It's nice to go places all the way down to even the teachers, or the people that they see in school, and vice versa, that they can go and, be like, oh, Mom, that's Miss whoever. And they walk down aisle 5 and say hi, and you have those conversations, and that it's just very authentic. And I do feel like that out here is not the same as in your bigger cities. It's not there.
No, not at all.
Not at all. And it's nice. It's a good feel out here for sure.
I tell my students all the time they're really lucky, because with the way martial arts was when I was a kid, there was a few schools, not really a lot of us did it, but like one night at the school, there were 3 principals, a school counselor, the prosecuting attorney for like there was all these different people at the school one night that my students train with. Like, they're coming into class as their teachers are leaving from taking class. Like, it's not that they're the weird kid that does I was the weird kid that did martial arts. In our community, though, like Night of 1,000 Stars we just had, my kids ran all over that night and had fun. They were able to go up there and get food, do this, do that. I have students that come up, parents walk up, they're like, oh, they're with you. They're hanging out at the booth. Like, I couldn't imagine doing that somewhere else. I second guess it out here still, and I keep a cautious eye, but we know everyone that's on the street.
I know everyone.
We're all somewhere.
Well,
Yes.
and it's nice because even other business owners, that if my kids go in someplace and they act a fool,
Oh, yeah.
they're my friend. They're going to call me and they're going to tell you, and you're going to get caught. And maybe again, there goes the therapy, right? They might need therapy later. But for me as a parent, it's nice to have my business out here and to raise my children out here and to make those authentic relationships out here. Because, like with Casey, I know that if Colin's at a school dance and, one of your other little guys is at a school dance and Casey's there, Casey's going to say, hey, it takes a village.
It really does. And that's something my stepson's made a few bad choices. And I pointed out to Ben and Jocelyn, I'm like, you notice one thing about everything he does? I'm like, what? I said, I know everything. The cop that pulled him over texted me. I had 3 phone calls from students at the school and 1 from an employee telling me he was up at the park. I find out everything. I said, me and your mom know everyone out here, and they're going to reach out because they're concerned not to tattle, but what's best for you. And I warned him, I'm like, dude, you've gotten out of a few things because people were like, hey, we want, he's a good kid. We wanted to reach out to you first. I was like, you're not going to get that somewhere else, so be very careful. But I've told my kids that, they were goofing they've been one to do Dare Dance. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I've kind of heard some stories. We'll see. Well, several people we knew were going, and Casey and a couple of moms rode up together and dropped the kids off and hung out. And I was like, perfect, I'm good. And I knew afterwards they were going to go with Jamie and hang out, and everything was good. And I was happy with that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Or they'll be with the parent from the school. Or I've got all these teen instructors that will kick their ass anywhere they go if they catch them acting up. They've been goofing around or something, and one of them will catch them by the ear, be like, whoa, that's not how we act. So, but that's what I love about it out here. And that was one of the big things with us doing this is bringing people like yourself on and getting to know you and getting to talk to people and hearing that side, hearing about the mom, not just the realtor. Well, when we're at so many events, that's all we get to be is that person sometimes, unless it's like our people that we do it all the time with. Jessica, Rachel, so many of them, you guys are always together doing stuff. You guys really know each other, but maybe 8 other people at that event don't. There's times I'll go to events and I'll run into people like yourself, or like Jessica and I figured out, I think 2nd grade was the first class we had together. We had 2nd, 3rd, and 4th because we were laughing because I couldn't remember why. I remember us in 4th grade getting in a lot of trouble for fighting. Like I'd pull her hair. I remember her getting warned for kicking me in the balls. Like if you not stop kicking Matt in the balls, he's never going to have kids. Like we fought, but I couldn't remember why. Well, then talking to her today, I was like, oh, we had every freaking grade here. Matt Maybe and I had there was finally one time we were not the 2 Matts in class. I bet if I went through yearbook photos, Jake and I probably had the same grades together multiple times. Because I can remember seeing it on the sheets. Like there's so many of us that know each other that well, and then there might be 10 other people that really don't. And it's not a cliquey thing. We just known each other forever. So that's what's kind of cool is getting to sit down and have these conversations, which is so fun.
Yeah, and really getting to know everybody in the community on that level. I think it's great that you're doing this. The second you threw it out there, I was so excited. I was like, this is exactly what this community needs. So that you do know the deep inner, relationships around town and what that person that owns that restaurant is going through or that boutique is going through and where they've come from and who they are.
Well, and as a business owner, I even find myself just assuming, well, they must have it easy. Their business was easy, or they just do that, whatever. Like I'll find myself even saying it in my own head, and that's not true. We all have things we go through. We're all balancing it all out. It's all hard, but you only get to see one side of it. Like I try to tell a story at the school of all my staff and how great they are. And one of the parents pointed out, they're like, you haven't put up a post with you in it in like 8 months. Huh? They're like, yeah, it doesn't look like you exist in your school. It's always the kids. And that's when I started looking into finding Joey and everybody up here was I needed to be in some of that stuff. I was like, okay, I'm kind of messing up here. I'm making it a little too much about them. Like we need to show the whole picture. But that's what I think is going to be cool about this is getting a chance for all of us to talk. I've got so many awesome guests coming on that I just can't wait. You're the 5th person I've had on. I reached out to about 10 of you guys, like just immediately people that like when Joey said, let's do this. I was like, boom, these are names and people I've had good conversations with. I want to continue this. So,
yeah, I'm really excited. I can say that I tend to stalk you a little bit because I'm excited to see, because I know some of those people on that list.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see and how it plans out.
When we started doing it, they're like, do you want us to send you what we're going to post the night before? I'm like, no, I'm excited. 6:30 in the morning. I'm like waiting for a pop-up notification. I'm like, dude, Joey posted.
Yeah. And
What
then
do I
even
do
with
I
Joey, because I know his sister really well.
Yeah.
So the second that I made that connection there, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a good connection
Oh,
between you two.
immediately. We realized it immediately.
Yeah, that's just fantastic. And for me, because I'm always in the corner of helping everybody, like I support everybody. I'm a firm believer that support everyone.
Yep.
And it was just really neat. So you had a little cheerleader, both of you and Joey both had a little cheerleader
That's
over in the
awesome. Thank
corner
you.
because I just knew that knowing you guys separately, and I say knowing you guys separately, I
Yeah.
know you more than Joey,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at Joey because I know his sister and his sister's pretty badass.
Yeah.
So, going off that, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good little mesh.
Yeah, we started talking the first time we started talking. We're like, okay, this is going to work. So,
Yeah.
well, we'll wrap up with that. It was awesome having you
thank
on.
you.
Thank you guys for watching the podcast today. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got to see a different side of the people in Lincoln County. And make sure to follow, like, and subscribe, share the videos. And we will keep posting more content, bringing you real talk with everybody here local.